Greetings, Adventurers! This is Lorne, your guild advisor, and welcome back to this week's installments of cuts and changes for DanMachi Season 4, where I highlight the differences between the original light novel source and the anime adaptation, in addition to providing you extra context for what you see in the show. With episode 20, we finally witnessed Astrea Familia's heart-wrenching downfall, and the anime did a fantastic job with not pulling any punches when it came to showcasing the gruesomeness and brutality of the event. Ryu continues to struggle with her survivor's guilt, but Belle manages to make her see things in a new light. The anime makes some great additions in this episode, but it also cannot include every single detail, so let's go ahead and start the breakdown. The episode opens up on floor 30 of the dungeon, with Astrea Familia surviving a salvo of explosions set up by Astrea Familia, led by Jura. This is actually the first time the exact floor is mentioned, as the novel did not specify which floor the event took place, just that it was on the lower levels. The reason that Astrea Familia is mostly unscathed from the explosions is because Lyra managed to notice the trap ahead of time. Jura and his men planted more than 100 blaze rocks across the floor, and it did not seem to matter when it came to trying to outmaneuver Astrea Familia. However, the explosions do trigger the summoning of Juggernaut, and before anyone has time to react, Noin of Astrea Familia is killed instantly. Because this Juggernaut spawned on floor 30, it is stronger than the one Belle fought in the water capital area, being floors 25 through 27, since the Juggernaut's power is based on the floor it spawns on. The anime does a good job at displaying the speed of the Juggernaut as it jumps back and forth across the floor, using the trees and the environment to quickly traverse through the area. Two more Astrea Familia members, Neze and Asta, are mercilessly slaughtered by Juggernaut, leading to Ryu's reckless charge. Kaguya rushes in to protect Ryu, and loses her right arm in the process. Salty and Rihanna follow up with a pair of magic attacks, but fall victim to the Juggernaut's magic reflection shell. The anime adds more detail to their deaths, as Rihanna screams out in pain, burning from her own flames, and Salty is fried to a crisp by her own lightning. You can also see that the reflected lightning hits Lyra as well, and we discover later that the reflected magic scorched her eyes. Iska also pulls off a valiant stand against the Juggernaut, even continuing to fight in desperation after losing an arm. Elise then rushes in to help Maryu, but is too late and ends up getting stabbed from behind. Once again, the anime is expanding upon what was initially described in the novels, adding to the gruesomeness of the scene. As the Astrea Familia members are being killed one by one, the novel describes how Ryu's heart was slowly breaking as she was losing the source of her strength, her friends. In the anime, they have Kaguya state that Ryu is immobilized due to shock, in order to convey Ryu's helplessness. The remaining members of Astrea Familia, Elise, Kaguya, and Lyra, resolve to use their final efforts to ensure Ryu's survival, telling her to prepare her magic as they work to remove the Juggernaut's magic reflection shell. Elise telling Ryu to make sure she keeps her ideals is an anime original addition, but a welcome one. Kaguya then gives Ryu her short swords, which we have seen Ryu use throughout the series. One difference in the novels is that while this memory is playing out in Ryu's head, the present-day Ryu is shouting at Elise, telling her that she was wrong to save Ryu, because Ryu became consumed by vengeance after their deaths. In her final moments, Lyra uses her bombs to blow off the Juggernaut's right arm, while Kaguya takes out the leg, severely weakening its mobility. Elise casts her enchantment magic, Agala Sarvacinth, which covers her body and sword in flames, giving the level 4 strength equal to a first-tier adventurer. She is pierced by the Juggernaut's remaining claw, but this was her intention, as she wanted to make sure the Juggernaut could not defend itself against her final attack. She unleashes the rest of her magic by chanting Arvelia, setting her flames directly into the Juggernaut's magic reflection shell, shattering it from the inside. This allows Ryu to use her magic on the Juggernaut, but naturally Elise perishes while inside the explosion of magic. In her final moments, Elise says Ryu's first name, rather than calling her Leon as usual, a touching anime original addition. The Juggernaut, wounded and weakened from all the attacks, flees in fear, leaving Ryu alone and surrounded by the corpses of her friends. The anime then has Ryu narrate the aftermath of the battle, which is a nice personal way to present the following events, whereas the novel simply tells the story in a third-person perspective. This adds a lot of emotion to the scenes as we listen to Ryu's recollection of events. Ryu carries an extreme case of survivor's guilt, but she could not allow herself to lose her life, as she did not want her friend's efforts to be in vain. That was her curse, wanting to die, but being unable to. After recovering, she goes back into the dungeon, discovering that her friends' bodies were likely eaten by monsters. She then finds a purple mound of ash she believes to be the Juggernaut. As I've stated before, Juggernauts eventually turn into ash after a period of time. Ryu was not given the chance to find resolution by finishing off the Juggernaut, and she struggles finding a reason to live, before ultimately deciding to dedicate her revenge on Astrea Familia and Evilus. Before she starts exacting her vengeance, she begs the goddess Astrea to leave Arario, and Astrea tells Ryu to give up on justice. Ryu believes that Astrea excommunicated her from the Familia, and allowed Ryu to keep her blessing as a mercy. But one could also reason that Astrea realized that Ryu's obsession with justice was making her lose herself. In Ryu's rampage against Evilus, she attacked people, buildings, and command posts that had ties with Evilus. This included shopkeepers and even suspicious guild employees. After destroying Astrea Familia, the god Rudra himself mocks Ryu, stating that he should invite her to join the Familia. Ryu, unable to commit the taboo of killing a deity, leaves him there to be captured by the guild, and Rudra ends up expelled and sent back to heaven. Ultimately, Ryu's efforts in destroying Evilus caused 27 different organizations aligned with it to fall, and 3 more Evilus-aligned gods to be sent back to heaven. Ironically, Ryu's rampage did help trigger the end of Arario's dark days. Naturally, the anime does not mention this detail as the events are being narrated by Ryu, and stating that would be giving herself credit when she clearly does not believe she deserves any. After finishing her rampage, Ryu could only feel emptiness and waited for death to come, only to be saved by Seer. Even so, she still could not wipe her survivor's guilt from her heart, as she imagines the members of Astrea Familia turning their backs on her as she begs to join them. Ryu wakes up to Belle digging her out of the rubble caused by the collapse of the Colosseum's floor. They were in a newly discovered passageway that was below the Colosseum. As Ryu looks at Belle, the novel describes that Belle appeared to be on the verge of death. His breathing was ragged, and he sounded like a dying animal. He was spitting out blood, and his entire body was stained with it, as he likely shielded Ryu from the explosion of the blaze rock. Ryu was frustrated at Belle for saving her and putting himself nearly at death's door when she felt she was undeserving. She even tries to convince Belle that she was not worth saving as she's lost hold of justice. But as we see in this episode, Belle refutes this by stating all the just deeds he's seen Ryu do. In Belle's eyes, she was always a hero, and he would not let anyone deny her worth, not even her. Despite Ryu believing she burned away her justice in the flames of vengeance, the ashes of justice still remained. Ryu's empty heart starts filling back up. When Belle is struck by the barbarian and seemingly unable to move, Ryu calls Belle by his first name rather than Cranel, and seems to have completely switched to using his first name for the remainder of the episode. Ryu has called Belle by his first name before, but mostly in life-threatening situations, such as the Black Goliath fight and his first fight against Juggernaut. It's a sign that Ryu now views the relationship as much closer. The pair then encounters yet another undiscovered section of floor 37, a room with a spring of water. Belle finally collapses due to exhaustion, and Ryu immediately tries to heal him with her magic. The novel mentions that this was a dangerous move for Ryu, as she was potentially risking using all her mental energy and going into a mind down, which would cause a situation where both Belle and Ryu are unconscious in the water. The healing is at first slow, and Ryu manages to push herself just enough for all of Belle's wounds to finally close. She's able to get Belle to drink some water, and the episode ends with Belle waking up in Ryu's arms. Episode 20 is a near perfect adaptation of the material and hits all the thrilling and emotional points it aims to achieve. It's clear that the staff put a lot of attention and effort into this episode when both the OP and ED animations were skipped for more episode time. Astrea Familia's struggle against the Juggernaut was portrayed incredibly well, not holding back the gruesomeness while also amplifying the source material by providing additional details not explicitly mentioned in the novels. The insert song, Not Meet Doubt, was created with the fall of Astrea Familia in mind, and it makes for an incredible and emotional accompaniment to the scene, especially when you consider that Ryu's voice actress, Saori Hayami, is singing the song. While I'm on the topic, the voice acting in this episode was exemplary, Ryu especially, as Hayami-san is able to express Ryu's emotions perfectly. This is quite possibly the best all-around episode in the entire series when you consider the voice work, the music, and how the scenes are portrayed in terms of direction. It's my hope that the team has prepared another masterpiece of an episode for when we reach the finale. In this week's Danmachi side story, it features Ryu reminiscing about her past and her relationship with Justice. There are lots of references to the Astraea Records story event, which is viewable in the mobile game, and I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to learn more about Astrea Familia, or is just curious about Arario's dark days against Evilus. I'll also provide links in the video description for those who cannot access the game. Episode 20 has completely rejuvenated my hopes for the final 2 episodes of the series, after a slightly disappointing adaptation in episode 19. It's clear to me now that they focused their resources on episode 20, and it was absolutely the correct decision if the anime stats resources were limited. Once again, I'm really looking forward to the finale now. If you'd like to see more DanMachi content, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Remember to follow me on my socials, and this is Lorne, your guild advisor, signing out.